Hi, it's Scott. ROCKFILE back with another podcast review for your ears. Going to talk about the 2019 documentary Mystify, Michael Hutchence. I was an NXS fan. I had some friends in high school that introduced me to new stuff that was coming out at the time, like Adam and the Ants, Duran Duran, and, of course, NXS. And they became a worldwide sensation. Pop band, rock band, you name it. Saw them live several times. Actually saw NXS the end of a U.S. tour in Birmingham, Alabama at an outdoor venue. They played for 3 hours and squirted champagne on each other when it was over. And it's kind of a big deal. I did not know some of the things I found out about this documentary. I won't get into too many spoilers, but if you know anything about Michael Hutchence, most of that is here. But as someone who considers themselves a rockfile, I learned some stuff. This is a well-paced, good, well-made documentary. Richard Lowenstein had worked with the band on previous projects and was planning to do kind of a biopic. They were going to hire someone to play Michael Hutchence, and that just didn't work out. They couldn't find anybody to play Michael Hutchence. No surprise there. So instead, they switched to an archival type of documentary and started getting interviews back as early as 2010. They interviewed Bono for this. It finally came out in 2019. It's sitting at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It made over $1 million for not bad for a documentary. And like I said, whether you're a fringe fan or a big fan, you're going to learn stuff here. For those that don't know, Michael Hutchence is the front man for a band called NXS from Australia. They came up through alternative radio and college radio and then broke through to pop and rock radio. They have many hits that radio still plays to this day. And he tragically died back in 1997. At the time, there were all sorts of things swirling around it, but I learned some things in this documentary that I did not know that arguably led to his death, and makes a lot more sense now than what we heard happened anyway. If you're a fan of music in general, it's a good documentary. It's also a cautionary tale. It's got a lot of interviews with Michael Hutchence that I've never seen before. It's a co-production from Australian Music, BBC Music, and a few other production houses. So it really kind of gives a world view of this. You get to see some child footage, lots of archival shots of him as a small kid growing up, and when he discovered music, that kind of thing. A brother that we didn't hear a whole lot about during the heyday of NXS, and now I know why. Really learned a lot. And for me, watching a documentary, that's a big deal, because I'm fairly knowledgeable in all things rock. And again, learned some things that I didn't know, saw some things I'd never seen before. And I like the way it was done, not so much putting him on a pedestal. I mean, he was a great artist. He's one of those few guys like Freddie Mercury that just has that X factor. He could just walk out on stage and just own it. He just had that. And very few people do these days. A lot of people work towards that. That is a skill, but some people are born to it naturally. And he was one of those. So you learn more about that and how he wanted to be an artist growing up and didn't really know what he wanted to do and kind of fell into music and anyway took singing lessons and stuff like that. I don't really have any complaints about the documentary, although they use Mystify 3 times in the movie, and there's a lot of NXS movie that didn't get touched on. But they do touch on the individual albums and the rise to fame and how things kind of stalled for a bit, and then they were reinvigorated, and then certain things happened to him. Not, like I said, this is not really a movie that you could spoil, but I didn't realize he had had an accident bad enough to have some brain damage 5 years before he died. That kind of led to it. He lost his sense of smell. He became prone to violent outbursts and things like that. A completely different person after a head injury. That happens. I mean, and a lot of that was held back from the press and held back from the fans, so we wouldn't know about it. Makes things a little more tragic, a little more sad, but also makes things a little more explainable, because the guy was like the it guy for a long time, and then all of a sudden he wasn't. And we don't really know how that happened. You could say it was the girl he was with or what happened with the band or whatever, but turns out it was a combination of things, including one of those things where he just hit his head on concrete and had a bit of brain damage. I had no idea. Anyway, I'm a big fan. One of the things I noticed about the documentary right at the beginning, it starts with small, it's kind of archival footage and some voices and stuff like that. But then it opens up into a live shot at them in a concert. And more than what happens on the screen, what happens with the audio. With the 5.1 surround, it was just like, oh, that was nice. And it turns out this was nominated for a whole bunch of awards, but it won Best Sound among all the documentaries it was nominated against. So Mystify, Michael Hutchence, if you have any interest in NXS or any interest in Michael Hutchence or any interest in any kind of tragic story where someone tried to get help, got help, abused the help, and that only made things worse. He was a great star. They made some great music. To this day, I still listen to NXS, and I'm a fan. But I'm happy there's a documentary out there that paints it realistically. Not too bad, not too good. It's not a fluff piece. But yeah, it was quite entertaining. Learned a few things. And in the end, I still respect the guy. So there you go. Michael Hutchence. It's Mystify Michael Hutchence. It's a documentary that's available. Shout Factory put it out. I picked it up on HamiltonBook.com for under $5, but you can stream it. I believe it's available on Prime. It's a good rockumentary, if you will. I miss Michael Hutchence. They put out some great music, and this is a good explanation of his life and what happened. I thought it was pretty interesting, so check it out if you will. A lot of reviews coming this week. Thanks for listening. Have a spectacular day.